Welcome to the UGC lecture series. This is the E-PG Pathshala lecture series and the subject is computer science and the course we are talking about is data structures. In this particular module, we are going to talk about applications of stacks. We had already seen one module previously on the application of stacks, where we spoke about the algebraic expression, where we spoke about infix to postfix and the evaluation of postfix. In this module, we are going to talk about some other interesting applications of stacks. As I already told you, stacks is used lot as a data structure in computing application itself, and some of the applications we are going to see are such applications. So, these are the people responsible for the creation of this module, and these are the learning objectives of the module, where we are going to talk to understand the use of stack in balancing symbols and the application of that particular concept in balancing parentheses. And then we are going to outline the importance of stacks in function call and recursion. This is again a typical computer application where the use of stacks is very important. And then we are going to look at a concept of backtracking, which we discussed earlier when we were talking about algorithmic design. We are going to look at and discuss the use of stacks in backtracking. And for this we are going to use two different examples. One is a simple depth first search example and the other is an AI type of example, which is called as N-Queen's problem. So, we are going to look at these two problems in order to understand the use of stacks in such applications. So, these are some of the interesting applications as we already saw. We have some applications which we already saw before. In this module, we are going to talk about matching of parentheses, function call, depth first search and N-Queen's problem. So, let us take the first one, which is called balancing of symbols. Actually, that is a general application. We are going to take a specific application of balancing of parentheses, plus please remember this can be applied for a lot of other similar application conceptually, and we will discuss that also. So, balancing symbols is an important concept that is used in many contexts in computer science. So, for example, most parsing uses tasks. Example includes in C++ and other programming languages where we match parentheses, which we are going to see. We also match tags of HTML, XTML and so on. And so, the simplest parenthesis checking problem is the simplest of the one, and here what we are going to look at is we are going to try to look at matching for every right brace, bracket and parenthesis. It must correspond, there must be a corresponding left counterpart. Now, though we use parenthesis in general, actually brace, bracket and parenthesis are the three different types of brackets we normally use, though they are used interchangeably sometimes. One is the square bracket, one is the round bracket and one is the other bracket, that is the flowery type of brackets. So, these three are the brackets that we will use, and we can assume that our expression has all the brackets, and the important thing is it should match with the corresponding one. In fact, a similar example would be the matching of if then else statements in your programming language also, that is also very important. So, that tells you how to do the computation for the if then else statement, nested if then and so on. So, so the three types of parentheses are this, the flower one and the square one, and it must be paired with a matching or corresponding close parenthesis, close flowering and close square bracket. So, for example, this is a correct one. If you look at this matches with this matches with the outer one, this matches with this matches with the outer one, the square open parenthesis matches with this, the square matches with this and the round matches with this. So, if you look at these example, for example, let us look at an incorrect one. You can never start with a close parenthesis, that is incorrect. So, that in the first step itself it goes out. Here if you look, the round should match with the corresponding round, but the square matches with if you look from the inner, square matches with square, that is fine, but the flower matches with the round, which is wrong. So, it is not necessary, I mean it is not sufficient. What you have to understand here is always an open parenthesis should come before a corresponding close parenthesis, that is shown here, this example, and for every open you should have a corresponding closed, that is the next one. And the third one is it should correspond correctly, that is you just cannot have 3 open here and 3 closed there, it should be in the correct order. So, these are the 3 criterion that comes for balancing of any symbols for that matter. Okay. Now, let us take a simple application of the ADT stacks, and this ADT stack is used for checking for balance braces. So, for example, a stack can be used to verify whether a program contains a balanced braces. An example of balanced braces, here we are looking at ABC open parenthesis DFG. Here in the previous example we looked at only an expression which contains only brackets, that does not happen in real life. So, here we are looking at an example of balanced one, where this we will start with this corresponds to this, and then this corresponds to this corresponds to this, and so on. And so, here you are using only one type of bracket and so on. So, this is a example of unbalanced, you can check it out later. Now, let us look at the algorithm. How does this work, this parenthesis matching algorithm? So, what we are given is an array X of n tokens, each of which is either a grouping symbol, that is a grouping symbol is a common term used for the brackets. As I told you, brackets can be brackets, braces or parenthesis, a variable, an arithmetic operator or a number. So, an expression contain a grouping symbol, remember this is only infix expression which we saw last time, a variable, arithmetic operator or a number, and the output will be true if and only if all the grouping symbols match correctly. So, we will start with the empty stack, and then we will read the symbol 0 to n minus 1, that is until all the input is exhausted. You take the first x of I, if it is an opening grouping symbol, then we just push that symbol onto the stack. So, this is where the operation of stacks starts. Then you go to the next step. If it is not a grouping symbol, if this is a closing grouping symbol, then check if the stack is empty. If the stack is empty, there is something wrong, because there is no opening matching opening symbol, it is not found in the thing. So, it is wrong. If it is not empty, then you pop it and see if it matches. If it does not match, then it is a wrong type. If it is empty, then return true, that is if S empty, then return true, every symbol has matched, that is after you complete the whole thing, that is this is, remember the for loop. You are not bothered about operating operator, arithmetic number or the variable, that is not coming in this matching algorithm. We are only looking whether the each of the 0 to n minus 1, the array contains tokens which are grouping symbols. There are only two types of grouping symbols, one is an open and one is a closed. If you see an open, put it in the stack. If you see a otherwise, you check whether it is a closing group symbol. If the stack is empty, there is nothing to match. So, the symbol is not found on the stack and it is an error. If it is you pop it, if you after you pop, you check whether it is matching with what is coming in, that is opening and close match. If it is so, then it is correct. If it is not so, you have to give an error signal. By the time you finish this loop, you would have completed the whole set. Okay. Now, if when you come out here, the stack has to be empty. If the stack is not empty, means there is an opening grouping signal for which there is a corresponding closing signal has not yet come. So, that is the issue here. So, if you come out and it is empty, it means every symbol has been matched. Grouping, we are talking only about grouping symbol, else there are some symbols which are not matched. So, the balance has not happened. So, this is a simple application where we have created a stack, we have looked at push and we have looked at pop. That is a simple parenthesis matching algorithm. So, this is an example. So, here you have, this is the first symbol that you see. So, you push it onto the stack. Okay. Then you see this, you are not bothered about the other variables or the operator. So, next you see the open symbol. So, when you see an opening grouping symbol, you push it onto the stack. So, that is the next step. Then you see this, you do not do anything. Now, you see a closing. So, you take the closing and pop it out and it is matching. So, fine, everything is fine. Then again you see an open, so push it onto the stack. Okay. Then you see a closed, it matches, so fine. Then you see again you pop, okay, because you have seen a close. When you are seeing a close, you are popping. So, you pop and check whether it matches, it matches. So, you have an empty stack, and so the algorithm tells you that this particular expression is balanced. So, this is a simple example. Now, we will see another example where it does not match. So, stack is empty at the end, so parenthesis balanced. Now, let us take another example. So, here you have the open, you push it, then you have an open, different type of grouping symbols, push it, then you have a closed. So, this works out fine, remove it, then you are having another open, so push it, and then you are having a closed. So, this removes. Now, you finished. Now, you do not have any more the stack, I mean the array has become empty. Now, the problem is the stack is not empty, however. So, if the stack only when you will pop out only when you see closing grouping symbols or parenthesis, stack is not empty. So, the parenthesis is not matched. So, this is another example we have used the algorithm. So, the same concept, okay, of balancing symbols can be used for a markup language. Today markup language is very common. It is a means of annotating a document to a given context in the text. This is the markup language. The annotations give information about the structure or the presentation of the text. HTML and all that is presentation basis. It gives the formatting, whether it is a title and so on. The best known example is HTML or the hypertext markup language. Stacks may be used to parse an HTML document or HTML. So, is made up of opening tags, some identifier, matching closing tags. For an example here, this is some identifier, then you have HTML. So, that is a tag, head is a tag, body is a tag, I is a tag, P is a tag. Now, here if you see this HTML, this head should match with head, this body, within that you are having I. So, this I should match with this, here you have a P should match with this body should match with this, and this HTML should match with this. So, here the tags are the something that comes within the tag indicated by these maps. So, whatever it may be, that has to balance. So, that is what we are trying to say. So, nesting indicates that any closing tag must match the most recent opening tag. Strategy for parsing, you read through the HTML linearly, just like we did for the expression. Place the opening tags on that stack. When a closing tag is encountered, pop it, see whether it is the same. If it is same, fine, and check it what is on top of the stack and continue. So, this is the same principles that we are using. That is why conceptually this parsing of HTML and the balancing of the parenthesis are same concept that we are using. So, let us go to the next application. So, the first application we saw was balancing of symbols, whether the symbols be brackets or parenthesis or the symbols be the tags of a HTML document. Now, we go to the next interesting application, which is the function call and use of activation records. This is considered as to one of the most important applications of stacks. So, here we have function calls. What are function calls? Function calls are performed this way. You write a function to solve a problem. So, the function itself may require some sub-problems to be solved, for which it may call another function. So, once the called function is over, it returns to the function that called it to the calling function has to continue from where it left off. So, when a function returns, execution and the return value is passed back to the last function which was called, the last in first out policy. So, that is the stack. Okay. So, the programming language or runtime system keeps track of the chain of active functions using a stack. So, when a function is called, the runtime system pushes this into the stack a frame, normally which contains the local variables and return value, the program counter, because remember for each function call the program counter will be different. So, the program counter and the track of the statement that is being executed, everything has to be stored and kept in a record which is called or a frame. And when a function returns, its frame is popped from the stack and the control is passed back to the function that is that was called that called the other function which is on top of the stack. So, that where we stored that frame, that is called as activation record. So, for functions we have activation records. So, the block of information frame associated with each function call includes the so called so, we have So, we have the control link, the return address, the return result address, the parameters, the local variables and the intermediate results of the calling function. So, all that is available in the this activation record. This is we are not going into too many details of this, because what we are doing here is to understand the application of stack. If you remember, we are not looking at how function calls are implemented, but we need the necessary things to understand why you need to call a stack. So, if you look here, this is the record. After that you have the return address, that is the important thing, location of code to execute function return on function return, result address, address in activation record of calling block to receive the return value. See, the calling block, the one that was called has to return some value. So, where it is going to be written is also available, that return, that address is needed, and the parameters, the locations to contain data from the calling block. So, return address, return result address and the parameters are important parts of this activation record. Now, let us take an example. So, you have a function f factorial of n. If n is less than 1, then the answer is 1, otherwise n is equal to factor of n minus 1. This activation, this function call, we are using a recursive function as an example. This is the recursion function call. So, the return result address location to put factor of n, which you get. Parameter set the value to n by calling the sequence, and intermediate results location for value of factor n minus 1. These are the important parts of this particular activation record. So, let us look at how it will look like. The activation records are kept on the stack. Every time a new call is activated, it pushes an activation record into the stack, and each completing call pops the topmost activation record of the stack. Stack has all the records of all active calls at any moment. That means, when you are calling something and it does not return, everything will be, those activation record will be stored on the stack, and on top of the stack will be the last function that was called. So, the topmost record has the most recent call. So, for example, if you have factorial 3 pushes one activation record on the stack, okay, saying that factor 3 is kept in abeyance, and I am calling factor 2, and then this call will push another record, that is the record for factor 2 on the stack, and call factor 1. This call pushes another record, resulting in 3 activation records on the stack. So, this is the factor k. So, this is the result address, this is factor n minus 1, and so if n is less than 1, then 1, else n factorial n minus 1. So, return address omitted would be a pointer into the code segment, we are not putting that here. So, suppose we start with factor 3, you have n here, 3 here, factor n minus 1. This in turn will call factor 2. So, this is there, this is on bottom of the stack, then you have this. So, here you have 2 and factor n minus 1, and then you have n 1 and factor n minus 1. After this there is no call. Okay. So, that means factor 1 will return. So, when it returns, it will remove this, pop this, and go back with the result to this, which will be stored here, and then after that this will be done, whatever processing has to be done. So, then you have finished factor 2. So, this will be removed, popped from the stack, and then you will go to this. So, it will be in the order, it was called in this order, factor 3, factor 2, factor 1, but it will be popped off the stack in the order factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, the result will be passed on correspondingly. So, this is an example of a function call. Here we have used recursion. It need not be a recursive function call, it can be any type of call, still you will use the same activation record concept and the stack for. Why is the stack used here? Because we always have to return to the function that was called the latest. So, last call has to be first processed, and then the next one has to be processed. So, the function return will happen in this order. So, that is what we were talking. So, function 1, then it gives the result here, it goes here and it calls. So, the result is returned. So, 1, then this result is returned and it gives. So, that is the use of activation records and function call, and the use of stacks for that particular application. The next application we are going to look is very interesting. It has a lot of application across many areas of computer science, which is the concept of backtracking, and the use of stacks is very intuitive to the concept of backtracking. So, stacks have many applications, as we have already seen. Two applications that we will see in the next few slides is based on backtracking. So, we are taking two examples, one is depth first search and the other is the n-queens problem, and the key to the success of backtracking problem or the concept of backtracking problem is each choice is recorded in a stack. When you run out of choices, that is, you try all the choices for the current decision. So, you are taking a decision, suppose you have 5 choices, you take a decision, the first choice is a decision, the rest is of course put onto the stack. Now, after you do one and all that, you take the first decision, do all the operations and all that, and then you pop the stack and continue trying the other different choices for the previous one. So, that is why it is called backtracking. You take a decision, do some activity, you find that either you have not reached success or what not, you go back, that is why it is called backtracking. And for backtracking, stack is the data structure, preferred data structure. So, let us take the DFS algorithm, this is the depth first algorithm. Visit the start node S and push all edges from node S as one entry onto the stack. Now, you will repeat until the stack is empty. If there are edges not yet traversed in the node on top of the stack, select one edge from that the node on top of the stack and traverse it. If the destination has already been visited, not been visited, visit it. and then if you are visiting it, push all the edges corresponding to that onto the stack. Else you go back to step A, if there are still more edges to visit, visit it. Okay. So, what you are doing is you are going to, what you are going to do, you are taking a node and then pushing all the edges from that node onto the stack. You are taking one node for processing. When you process that node, you will again take all the edges and push it on. All the edges are considered as one entry in the stack. That is how DFS is done. So, that corresponds to all the edges from that particular node. The node is the one that is stored in the stack. So, suppose we will see the example also. So, what you do is you push all the edges and you will have to keep on trying all the edges. Now, once there are two possibilities here, that is you reach an edge that you have already visited, then you do not have to expand it and put it on top of the stack. If it is something that you have not visited, then you have to again process it. So, else pop, so if there is no edges, then you pop the node on top of the stack and go to step B. Step B is this. Okay. So, let us take an example of this. Now, this is the node, initially nothing is visited. So, not visited nodes are called are marked as white. Now, just let us understand this graph. I have a node A and I have two edges from A to F and G respectively. Okay. Similarly, B has two edges to H, A and I respectively. C has to D and A. Okay. And we put it in that order. D has to C and F, E has to C, D and G, F where is F? F has to E and G has no outgoing edges, H has to B and I has to H. So, this is the representation or adjacency list representation of a graph. We will be going into this detail when we talk about graphs, but here we are looking at it as only a depth first search. So, let us understand the depth first search. So, here you have, I am starting from node A. Okay. Now, what I have done is when I start from node A, I push two edges of A onto the stack. Okay. And then I say I am choosing push nodes of starting node A onto the stack. So, A is now marked as visited, which I put as green, and I have noted here that A has been visited, and I have marked it as this edge which I am following from A as AF, which is I have put in red color. This is the way in which I have assumed. So, that is the first step. Now, according to depth first, I should not go here, I should go to F's edges. So, that is I have travelled AF. Okay. Then now I go to the next. So, now my node that I have to start off with is F. So, what should I do? I should put all the edges from F, which is FE, only one edge is there. I put FE onto the stack and I visit F. Okay. So, now what I have done is I visit F and F has come out here. Now, I have to go to E because it is depth first. So, I am going from A, F, next I have to go to E. Now, E, what is the meaning of going to E or visiting E? I have to put all the edges on top of the stack. Okay. That is what I am going from F to E, and F is visited now. So, I mark it as F, and now E has got 3 edges C, D and G. So, I put all those 3. I am taking it, I mean actually we can take any one of these edges, but I am taking the one that alphabetically, that is how some systematic way of doing. So, I visit EC. So, I go through this. So, push edges of node E onto the stack and E is now visited and follow edge EC. So, I follow the edge EC. I could have followed ED or EG, but I am following EC. So, I follow the edge EC. Now, what happens? I am at C. Now, I go to the next step. So, now push edges of node C onto the stack and then C is now visited, and so that C comes here, and then follow edge CA. A is already visited. So, I just scratched off. CA is now followed. This has been put by if it is a red edge, that means I have not yet traversed, the destination node has not been visited. Here CA as A is been visited. So, I am just I am not considering it in my depth first search. Depth first search will give you a list of nodes in what order, and it depends on the starting node. Here we are assuming A start. Now, let us go to the next step. Now, what happens? Now, when I went from CA to CA, I should not travel that because A is an already visited node. So, now from the top of the stack I have chosen now explore the next option of node C. Why we want to explore the next option? Because we want to assume that CA is not, so I go to CD. So, I go to CD and D is not yet visited, no. So, I travel that and now I have to choose from D. I visit DC, but C is already visited. So, I do not have to go there. So, my next choice is obviously DF, which I will, okay. But DF is also traversed. So, now that means D has no more options, I can remove it. Now, explore next option of D, DF, which is already visited. So, all option of that node is over. This is the first time we are coming across this. So, we remove that and we pop D. Now, we have to go to the next option of C, which is CD, but that CD is also already visited. So, that also I need not go. So, I go to the next option of C, E, which is ED, but that is also already visited. So, pop C, and now I go to the next option ED, that is also already visited. So, I go to the next option EG, which is now an unvisited node. So, I goes to G. Now, now all options of V is over. So, I remove it from the stack, okay. And then I visit F, but F is an option which I have already seen. So, I do not need that, and AG is already seen. So, that also I do not need. So, now comes my final one minute. So, now all the nodes have been considered. Now, all options of node on top of stack is exhausted. So, I pop A and stack is now empty. So, A, C, D, E, F, G is the order in which the nodes are visited. So, please note here the main concept of DFS is I have to go depth first, that is if I visit from A to F, then F to, like that I have to go, I should not look at the other options. I come to the other options of a particular node only when that option that has already got only visited nodes. So, visited nodes is the important concept here, and each node entry corresponds to all the edges of that particular node. So, the stack stores only a node along with its edges. So, this is the depth first where we use the stack. Now, let us talk about another interesting problem which we can use, which uses stack, and that is again a backtracking problem, the N-Queens problem. So, N-Queens problem is an interesting problem that they discuss in many topics of computer science, especially in AI. So, what is this problem? This problem says that you have n queens that has to be placed on a board of n cross n, so that no two queens attack. So, this is the 4 cross 4 board, and you have 4 queens. You can expand this to an 8 cross 8 board with 8 queens, 8 queens problem it is called then. So, here we are assuming 4 just for showing the problem, and we are also going to show how the stack is used for this particular problem. So, what is the meaning of attack? So, that means no two queens are allowed to be on the same row or the same column, okay, or on the same diagonal. So, that is the meaning of attack. You are not allowed to have like this. You have to place the queens in such a way that all these 3 conditions are not violated. That is, they should not be on the same, they are not there. That is, it should not be on the same row, same column and same diagonal. So, let us start with this as usual, because this is a stack application, we have a empty stack here, and we have the 4 queens and we have a 4 into 4 crossword. This stack is initialized so that we can keep track of our decisions that we have made previously. So, that if there is some you reach a dead end, you can backtrack. So, remember this was an application of stack for backtracking. So, what we do is we take the first queen. We also have a small counter which counts the number of queens that have been filled till now, and that has to be 4 obviously for your program to succeed. So, we start with a queen which we place on the first row first column. Now, this obviously will not have any conflict, and we place it on a stack, the position of the particular queen, the first queen. Then we increase fill by 1 because there is no attack. Then we go to the next row and we start with the leftmost column. We put that here, but obviously there is a clash here. We go here, there is a clash, we go here, there is no clash. So, we stop here. Now, this is the final position of the queen at this point of time, and now we go to the so, now since the position of this particular queen has been found with no conflict, we increase fill by 2. Now, we have to take the third queen. Now, we go to the third queen. Up to now we have not done no backtracking. So, we start with the third queen. Here we cannot place the third queen here because there is a clash. We cannot place it here because of the diagonal clash with the second queen. We cannot place it here because of vertical or columns clash. We cannot place it here because again because of the diagonal clash. So, that means there is no place to place 3. So, nowhere else to go, it moves out of the board. Now, is the place where we do backtracking. So, what do we have to backtrack? We have to backtrack the decision we made about the second queen. Okay. So, what we do here is we run out of room, and so we pop the stack, okay, because the third is no, we cannot do third, we have to go back to the previous decision we made of placing the second queen in the column 3. So, now we have not yet found the position for the second queen. So, we reduced fill by 1, and now we have to search for another position for which this has to move to. Obviously, there is only one, this position has been stored on top of the stack. So, we go to the next column. So, we go there, again there is no clash. So, we now we have found a position for the second queen without a clash. So, we increase fill by 2 and we record that position on top of the stack. Now, we go to the third again and we have the third column, and there is a clash. So, we move it and so on. You have to keep moving this till you find. So, if you put it here, there is no clash. So, and you continue with the fourth column, you may have to backtrack to 3, sometimes you may have to backtrack to 1. We are not showing the whole thing. So, the pseudocode for n queens is initialize the stack when we can, where we keep track of our decision. What is the decision we have made? The queen is placed in which row is the third queen, second queen, which column. So, place the first queen, pushing its position onto the stack and setting fill to 0. Repeat these steps. What are the steps we have to repeat? If there are no conflicts, you increase fill by n 1, and if the fill does reach 0, you have finished. Otherwise, you move to the next row and place a queen in the first column. So, but if there is a conflict and you have to make room, you keep shifting. So, you keep shifting and adjusting the record on top of the stack accordingly to indicate the new position. Now, if there is a conflict, that is the third condition. There is no conflict, there is a conflict, and there is a conflict, and there is no room. So, if there is no conflict, then you have to place the next queen or you are finished. If there is a conflict and there is room, you shift. If there is a conflict and there is no room, then you what you have to do? You have to backtrack to the previous decision. So, backtrack, keep popping the stack and reducing fill by 1 until you reach a position where the queen can be shifted rightward, and shift this queen, and you keep repeating the steps till you reach this condition, that is all the n queens have been placed correctly. So, that is the pseudocode for n queens, and we have used the concept of stack in which the positions of the queens have been pushed on top of the stack, indicating the decision you have made for that particular queen at that particular moment, and then it keeps backtracking, you change the position, and that is recorded on top of the stack. So, the stack indicates the position of the queens. So, so we have in this, so we have finished seeing some interesting applications of stacks, and we have explained the use of stack in balancing symbols. We took the example of balancing parentheses. We also showed how it can be used for other balancing symbols applications like parsing of HTML. Then we outlined the importance of stacks and its use in function call and recursion, and then we used an important use of stacks we discussed in backtracking, where backtracking is a design technique itself, algorithm design technique, which you have already seen, and we have seen the application of this concept to two very different applications. One is the depth first search and one is an n queens game like problem. So, with this we finish the ADT stack, where we looked at what is an ADT stack, what are the different types of application implementations we did for the ADT stack, and what are the interesting application. Last module we saw about the algebraic expression application of for stacks, and here we saw two different conceptual applications and one function call application of stack. With this we finish the modules on stacks. Thank you.